Hello there, Terry Bell here from Bell & Company, another edition of our podcast called Real Talk, and what we're doing here, we're inviting doers and commentators that know their stuff to give us a bit of a heads up on where they are and where they see things progressing through these difficult times. We've got enough BS out there from mainstream media, and today I'm really pleased to invite a friend, somebody that'll give you a vested interest. We do business together, Mr. Marc Elliot of Fluent Finance Abroad. Hi, Marc, how are you?
Hello, Terry. Good afternoon. Thanks for the invite.
Good.
Always lovely to see you.
Good. And Mark's there in sunny San Pedro in the Costa del Sol. Tough gig. Obviously, it's only about 20 degrees. He's got his jumper on, as all Spanish people do. Mark, as you can tell, is English. But what are you? Half and half? How does it work? What's your gene pool?
Half and half. My mother is from Madrid, so yeah.
But you can't shake off the Croydon accent.
I can't shake off the South London accent. No, it's that one's going to stick with me for forever. It seems, yeah. Cool. So originally, I'm from Croydon, from Purley, and Surrey way.
So as I was saying there with Mark, Mark's a doer and a commentator, and I'll give you a bit of a thing. So we've done a little bit of research on you, found out all your secrets, Mark. No, we haven't. What Mark is a doer. So Mark survived in the mortgage market 2008, which was absolutely catastrophic back in the day. Built up an excellent practice there in Spain. A team of how many, Mark, you've got working there?
At the moment, we've got 8 full-time.
And in what is generally a tricky market, but you're very strong in it, and I will blow smoke there a little bit, and you're very efficient at what you're doing. So you've done it, gone through, come out the other side, done it, and gone there. Great little family setup you got there with Kelly and the 2 lads, and you're a commentator. You do have input. You're regularly talking to the banks, and that's why we're torturing you today for a bit of commentary. What else can you tell us about it that's nearly interesting, Mark?
Well, I'll start off from the beginning because I guess the journey is important. I originally got into financial services back in 2002. I worked for a company called Lincoln Financial, which were an insurance protection provider, and I went through my FPCs there, and I went into the Lloyds banking group. I worked for Scottish Widows. And that was fine, but then September 11th, 2001 happened, and if you're in the financial sort of trying to sell pensions, investments, and that sort of stuff, you would have had a pretty bad time. So, luckily enough, I lived in London, and I got a job working for John Charcoal, and that's when I started to understand how important property is to people. Whether or not they were interested in buying a home to live in. Everyone wants to live in a lovely home. And in London, the London property market was still booming. It didn't matter what happened in September 11. It didn't really matter what happened in stock markets. The London property market was still thriving. And then I also got to understand how important property was in terms of investment. With people looking at creating their own pension plans, because pension plans have had pretty poor press. They weren't performing for whatever reason. We had problems with endowment policies and everything else. So people were taking matters into their own hands, and I started to understand really what a mortgage was and how important it, and what an important tool it could be. It could be to help create a lovely place to live in, and also be a really important tool to help you try and create a side business, if you want, a property portfolio, or to start earning some money from properties. So that's how I got into the mortgage business. Being half Spanish and fluent in the language, I was invited to come to Spain, to the Costa del Sol, to Marbella, to understand how the Spanish mortgage market works, and help the expat understand how they could buy a property in Spain much easier. And that's when I decided that I quite liked it out here in Spain. I knew I had quite a lot of knowledge from the UK mortgage market, and obviously I could speak Spanish and can read and write Spanish. So I thought, well, what a fantastic place for me to be able to grow, because what I noticed when I first got here in Spain, there was a huge lack of regulation compared to what I was used to working under, and the mortgage market in Spain was like the Wild West. It was just ridiculous. The banks were giving out mortgages like they were Skittles at the end of the day, and basically all you needed was a passport and a pulse, and you could have got a mortgage. To be fair, you didn't even have to have funds for deposit. So it was just like a mass frenzy of property purchasing, which, to be honest, actually at first put me off a bit. I was a bit worried because I thought this isn't going to end up well, but you end up getting into the lifestyle, and I've always loved Spain. I've always been drawn to Spain. So I thought, yeah, no, you know what, I'll stick it out. And in 2006, I decided to go on my own because I thought, I had the right skills and the right knowledge to do that. And that's when I created Fluent Finance Abroad. And we started off quite well, and it's just me on my own. And then the financial crash came in 2008. And that hit Spain very, very badly. As you know, Terry, Spain, Italy, Ireland, Portugal, and Greece. Spain was part of the so-called pig countries.
Yeah.
And I have to say that it was a complete disaster. But I was in a Zoom meeting a little bit earlier, and we were talking about that. And Spanish property prices didn't start to increase from late 2008 until 2014. So you do the maths. That's six years of a recession on the property wise. So we went through all of that. So we've gone through some good times with Spanish banks. We've gone through some very difficult times, but I hopefully am recognised as probably one of the mainstays and one of the leaders of the Spanish mortgage market, and that's where we're at this moment.
Very much so. Just not all the detail, right? But how did you keep going on those? So say your 2008 crash to 2014. How did you, not financially, how did you keep going? How did you, in your head?
Well, I was very lucky that I didn't have huge costs.
Yeah.
I didn't at that time. I didn't have a mortgage, so I was in rented accommodation. So you end up saying, well, I can't afford that rent. So what I'll end up doing is finding a more humble place. And I just brought all my costs right down to a minimum, and just everything that any spare cash I just invested in myself and in my business. That was it. And no fancy holidays, no trips abroad, or and going out and just having tapas and stuff like that. So you just do whatever you got to do to get through to the other end, and no matter how long. But I had to make a decision to myself. It's like, well, what do I do? Do I stay here and tough it out, or do I go back to the UK and try and find another job back into a bank or something like that? And I thought, I was lucky enough that I was young enough. I was 29 when I think I came to Spain, and I didn't have a family at that time. So I could really focus on myself and just get through that. So if I had a big mortgage, or if I had a family and stuff, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you as the owner of Fluent Finance Abroad. But that's basically it.
And I will blow smoke a little bit, more power to your elbow. As I said, you're fully on top of the market. It's a difficult market now, right? We won't even talk about Brexit yet, but in terms of the regulation that comes with it, they have learned a bit, and I've seen you in action in terms of what you do. And again, like as a compliment to you, I see how you deal with people with all sorts of problems. You're a good go-to guy there in San Pedro, in that area. People turn up. What about this? What about that? What about this? And sometimes it nearly looks like a doctor's your spot. There's all people dotted around reception. And what's his problem? Don't know yet, but we'll soon bloody find out, and stuff like that. But that's quite cool, because it makes it a bit of variety as well. I know you've got to do your regulation. You've got your team there doing the stuff, but a good bit of variety as well in terms of what you do.
I mean, how can we put it? I mean, we're a bridge for a lot of people who can't speak Spanish very well.
Yeah.
Our level of Spanish is extremely high. I mean, Ainara and Eva and everyone, all the Spanish people that work here, obviously they're natives.
Yeah.
So if someone comes in and they're unsure about a bit of advice that they've got from their bank about a pension or whatever it may be, or even a very basic tax question, then if we can't answer it, we certainly, because we've been in the business so long and we've got a fairly good reputation with fellow professionals, and we do know which ones are good and which ones aren't so good.
Got to kiss the frogs, haven't you, along the way?
But the thing is, you know, being half Spanish, I mean, when a Spaniard talks to me, I have got the ability to understand what they're saying to me in what they're really saying to me.
Yeah, and the proper context of it. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can understand the context. I can when a Spaniard talks to me in their language, I can smell. You know, you mentioned it, BS. I can spell it. I mean, because I'm half Spanish. You know, I grew up in Spain. My family is Spanish. So, I can cut a lot of all of that out. Yes, we've made mistakes. Yes, we've maybe got into bed with probably some people that have turned out to be what you might, you know, disappointing. But we live and learn, and we've got a hell of a lot of experience, and we're well known, and we do know a lot of people. So a lot of people come to us just for initial advice and just general guidance. So yeah, we're more than happy to point people in the right way.
And going back to where you are at the minute, obviously, we're not going to the politics and all the other garbage with Brexit, but how's Brexit affected you in terms of what you do there? Has that cut the market back, or is it still too early? Or don't start sounding off here. I know you'll go nuts in a minute.
I'm going to have to. It's part of the course. The banks, in terms of the banks have already factored the Brexit effect in anyway. So they've started treating Brits as third member country person probably around about 12 months ago. So you know, in terms of a lending perspective, a Brit really shouldn't expect more than 60%. As like a North American would expect, right?
Yeah.
The third country, the laws and regulations now are completely changed. You're not a European citizen, so you should expect 60%. Obviously, there are top-end clients, high-end clients that will get 70% because you know that's just who they are and their profile. But the rule of thumb is whereas a French person should expect to get a maximum 70%, a Brit now should expect 60%. Yeah. But that's absolutely fine. The banks are still fine.
Still working on it.
Still working on it, and still, you know, the banks are fine. The banks know exactly what they're dealing with. They've been dealing with Brits for decades, so they know exactly what they're doing. It's just they tighten up the rules a little bit because, I don't know, European enforcement orders and all that kind of stuff. They're no longer going to be valid. So it's going to be a little bit harder to chase someone for a non-payment of a mortgage in their home country. So you know that's obvious. So they're just going to tighten the rules a little bit. The Brexit in itself, will it affect the Spanish property market? I think it will. What we now know about the rules of being able to come and live in Spain now, it's going to be quite difficult in terms of the amount of health insurance that you're going to have, the amount of savings that you're going to have, if you're, you know, how much regular income that you're going to need to, which is going to force people to maybe sell up.
Yeah.
How many, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see until the pandemic is finished, until we really see the full consequences of Brexit. But, you know, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to work out that places like Costa Blanca and certain places on the Costa del Sol, Tenerife, whatever, who do cater for a lower budget, you know, those property owners may have to consider going back to the UK and selling up because they won't be able to get access to the free healthcare that they've been able to get access.
And it's usually that demographic, they need it more as well. That the older, you know, people retiring to the sun, trying to warm the old bones up when they get out there eventually and stuff like that. So,
well, yeah, if you're 75 or 80 years old, you know, what's the cost of a private medical insurance going to be? It's going to be extortionate. So you're not going to be able to afford that if you're on a state pension. That's obvious. So you may have invested into a property that's worth 150,000. Think, well, I can't get healthcare here anymore. I'm going to have to go back. Because I can't afford the healthcare in Spain anymore, so the property is going to have to go on the market. How many of those properties are going to have to go on the market? We don't know.
I think it's going to be a slow dribble. That demographic as well. It's almost at the needs, isn't it? As they go through. There was a great old fellow the other night where we live in Harrogate, and he's 82, right? But he's got some great one-liners, and one of them was he booked a holiday, but he says I always book it within 3 months because of where I am in my life, right?
Yeah.
But so he overpaid for a holiday, paid for the full lot, not just the 260 quid deposits.
Yeah.
And so he's trying to get it back off Jet2. I said, well, don't worry about it. You'll be going in about 3 or 4 months. He says, let me tell you, I don't buy green bananas, love. I haven't got time to wait for them to ripen. I don't know whether I'm going to be here when they're ripen.
Exactly.
And so you've got that trick. I think it's going to be a slow, in terms of obviously 2008 and some of the real sort of, for want of a better phrase, crappy developments, some of the sort of stuff that went on then. That there's still a big enough lump of that. I think this is going to be a sort of slow, sort of dribble effect. I don't think there's going to be much of that. Some areas there will be, like you saying, if you go to the golf resorts up near Murcia and up near there, and it's not been sorted still. So that's our bedrock in terms of what we do with the property solutions there.
Yeah.
But in terms of overall, what about the Spanish economy, Mark? Obviously everyone's got to deal with COVID. How's that coping?
COVID it's bad, isn't it? I mean, it's not good. The Spanish economy relies heavily on tourism, so that's knackered. I've just been on excuse my French, but I've just been on the phone to an agent on Zoom to an agent in Tenerife. The whole island is related to tourism. So everyone's struggling. I mean, we've got people that I've got friends that work in hotels and things like that. They haven't worked for over a year. I mean, this is a disaster. So, but when is the vaccine going to be rolled out? How long is it going to take? There's no real light at the end of the tunnel that I can see. So it's really frustrating, and there's going to be a lot of job losses. Of course there are. I mean, I spoke to a lawyer friend of mine this morning, and he's involved in helping people with toxic debt, and he said he's never been busier, and that's from 2008. So it's kind of. So no, it's not good. It's not good.
Is there furlough out there? Is there furlough facilities?
There's something called the ERTE, ERTE.
Yeah.
Which is exactly the same as the furlough scheme. There's
no. Then for businesses, there sort of bounce back loans or anything like that. Is that
no bounce? They're quite difficult to get hold of. I mean, again, we're lucky enough we haven't had to tap into any of those government assistances as yet. Hopefully we don't have to, so we haven't explored too much about it. But yes, there are. But again, they're difficult to get. They're not as straightforward as a bounce back loan in the UK. I mean, I know businesses had access to that and was filling the form, and a couple of days later you got the money. That doesn't happen in Spain. There's a lot more red tape in Spain. The big problem in Spain, really, in my opinion, is that they're in a political deadlock between left and right. They just hate each other. They just cannot come up. Like, one thing that impresses me about the government at the moment in the UK is the opposition. The opposition aren't really doing anything to hinder Boris Johnson's government. Keir Starmer is doing everything. He's just been really quiet, and he's just letting the government get on with it, which is exactly what needs to be done.
Yes, it's beyond politics, isn't it?
It's beyond. But in Spain, unfortunately, Terry, they don't care. They really don't care. It's all about you're left. Oh, well, you're disgusting. You're right. And we're not going to vote for anything that you guys put forward because we just don't like you. And it is literally that. That is. And
I was doing that earlier. It's just literally one lot get in, they fall out, then the next lot get in. It's just either or, nowhere, no middle ground at all.
There's no middle ground. There's no. I mean, I talk to people and you're red or you're blue. That's it. And and there's no one in the middle. And that's the problem with this country, unfortunately. And all the different regions, we've got all the problems with Catalonia and all this kind of stuff. There's no unity, unfortunately. And so therefore, it's constant bickering and infighting. There's one region's trying to oust one group because of whatever it is, whatever corruption thing that they suggest. And it's just, that is not what we should be doing.
No, it's draining, terribly draining. You just don't need that crap. I'm not even apologise for the French because it is crap. See, what about the banks? How are our dear banks? I think there's been a bit of consolidation there with a few of them, Kaiser and Bankia. And I know Sabadell at one point were looking, I think, to hook up with BBVA. What about the banks? They seem to be okay at the minute, or what are they?
Yeah, the banks are good. I mean, like you say, from 2008, there's been, I think there used to be 55 different registered banks and building societies in Spain. That's been consolidated down to now, the traditional ones to around about 12. We've got a few online challenger banks.
Right.
Again, they're just stepping out and see how they develop. Yeah. They're just targeting on the big cities, and the main resident Spaniard.
Yeah.
So our options are a little bit limited at the moment with the merger of Bankia and Caixa. That's created Spain's biggest bank.
Yeah.
So that'd be interesting to see. We obviously work very closely with both of those banks, so now that bank is going to turn into one. One of the banks was pretty open in terms of lending. The other one was a bit more conservative. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But obviously we've got people on the inside from both camps. So, we'll be keeping our contact close with that. The Sabadell merger with BBVA, well, BBVA was supposed to assume or take over Sabadell, and Sabadell just didn't fancy that at all. So they're carrying on as they are, which is a good thing, because the more banks we've got, the more options in terms of my business, the better it is. So there's been a hell of a lot of change. And probably the problem with Spanish banks is that they were just completely overstaffed, and obviously staff carry huge costs. So this is why we're seeing this mergers of so many banks, just to cut the amount of staff so that they're not so much of a.
Just so we get the context and the comparable, are they branch closures? Because obviously in the UK, branch closures masses. You drive through areas, you start seeing banks, old bank buildings. They have that look in the UK, don't they? They're nurseries, they're Chinese restaurants, Indian restaurants, whatever they are, right? Anything and everything in there. Are you getting the branch closures there as much? Or?
Yeah, loads, absolutely loads. I mean, you could walk down, I don't know, Marbella's Main Street, Ricardo Soriano. 15 years ago, every other thing was a bank. It was a joke. I mean, I couldn't understand it. This is what's I was just like, this doesn't make sense. How can these banks be making so much money that they can afford all of this? Now, all of that, there's probably 4 or 5 different banks. I mean, it was and then San Pedro. It's a small town just on the outskirts of Marbella. Every other thing was a bank. Now they consolidated it down. They voluntary redundancies. We've had to say goodbye to some friends of ours in Bank of Sabadell yesterday, because they've been out the bank for 35 years, but yesterday was their last day because they were offered early redundancy and they've taken it. So they're just culling. I mean, I think when all of this happened, I said they're going to have to chop the banking industry in half for it to actually start well, because it was just hemorrhaging money. But because there was so much money around at the time from the US and everything else, it didn't really matter. But obviously when it all fell apart, everyone started to look into what was really going on, and it was just a massive cash cow.
Well, that's what you're finding. They can't carry the overhead bases. I mean, because it's good because we're sort of playing a little bit of tennis here in terms of when you compare it. But we've got UK town centres absolutely dying. You're now getting them where they look from the middle out rather than how to go to the middle. And you've got Ipswich, you've got this new policy where they're trying to grow from the middle and spread out rather than just go to the town centre, because shopping centres are yesterday's history. Of my experience, say of San Pedro, it's pretty good occupancy in terms you go through the retail area there and everything else. What's the shopping centre outside Marbella? Because my excuse, like Kenyatta, right? And more or less full. Obviously not the minute, but that seems to work quite well. And it's Spain still seems to have that town, almost like pride of the centre of towns and stuff like that. And it is a social place to go to. Obviously, you got the benefit of the weather.
Yeah.
Boris lets us out on the 12th of April, right? So we can eat outside. You know what the weather's like here, right? It's supposed to be sunny today. We've got like 9 degrees max. It is going to be teeming down with rain. You know that. It's going to be brutal weather. But going back, Spain still has that community feeling in towns, which you still get there. But it's good to see the banks are in good form. And they had to do that bit of consolidation. They've got to do this because they've got to be able to power through, haven't they?
They were forced to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, don't forget that all banks, or the majority of banks, talk about RBS and Lloyds in the UK, they had public money to bail them out. It's the same with Spanish banks. So they were forced to get their ship in order, because at the end of the day, it's just not right. You can't. There was so much corruption within the banks as well. It's jobs for the boys. You got connection to Cordoba. Cordoba used to be owned pretty much the whole of the centre by Cajasur, which is a building society, who went under. Probably almost took Cordoba down with it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not, you can't give the banks to it so much, and it's just it was just an accident waiting to happen. But
Cordoba's got a decent population. What's about 300,000? All right.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
So it's not like a wee town, is it? Not, I mean, big, bigger than Marbella.
Much bigger than Marbella. I mean, it's one
Yeah.
of, you know, Sevilla, Cordoba, and Malaga. They're the three main, and
Yeah.
Cadiz. Those are the four main towns in Andalusia. But I mean, it was just ridiculous. I struggle to explain how such a big blob of rubbish it was. It was just unbelievable, really. I mean, obviously dealing with Spanish banks, and you're like, what? You know, just didn't really have people walking around the halls in Cordoba in Cajasol. What does he do? Don't know. He's been here for years. He's just walking around with a piece of paper in his hand. I mean, it's you know, that's extreme. But I mean,
but I think it's the world over, Mark. Okay, we do work in the South of Ireland here, right? And AIB have a great big centre down near the rugby ground there, right? And it's like Ballsbridge Road, and it's like they've got their own shops in there. It's that big a branch, right? We were trying to get hold of a man once there. We actually rang up HR and said, "Is he still with us? Is he? No, not is he still with you? Is he still alive?" And we're going, yeah, we got his details. Was there any chance of him ever coming back? And you go to Cypriot banks, right? Do not give a monkeys, not a monkeys, not a monkey. Don't care. Go to work, come up. Don't get anything. What happened today? No idea. Where's my dinner? It must be that sort of mindset. And it's been difficult because they've all had tough times, and you'll have seen them. What banks have gone through there. But in terms of SME, so we've got two hats, you know. So obviously we're here as Bell and Company, and that's what this is primarily about. But we've got the EU side, where kindly we sometimes work with you in terms of your insight. But SMEs in Spain, how are they going to do here? Take away, if you like, the tourist side, if you can. Say if you go in 20 miles and you start get to more like real Spain. What are they thinking on the economy there in terms of small businesses?
It's a difficult one for me to say. I mean, my next door neighbour is in agriculture, so he, you know,
right.
he's a man of the lands, and he's always bringing, you know, onions and watermelons and everything else like that. He's saying he's never been busier, so that's a good start.
Yeah, good, yeah.
You know, because lockdown, what are you going to do? You're going to spend your money on food, basically. So in terms of, you know, the actual food production, that's been good. But yeah, apart from that, I mean, all the nightclub, Spain is very much, you know, obviously the manufacturing, you know, that's still there. I mean, to be honest, Terry, I can't really give you an insight as to.
Not going to be easy, I know. But you were saying it was a good. There's also some positives. We were talking to a guy, as I say, from AJ Bell the other day, and we were doing it. There are good business people. You know, we've got to be careful because mainstream media, you know, just call it for what it is. It's crap. You know, they only manifest themselves in bad news. But there are good businessmen and women out there, and some are doing I know some people are doing very well, right? And not at the misfortune of others. It's just that they're good people, and opportunities will come from them. It's just making sure you make you need the backdrop for it to work. Here in England, Rishi Sunak is like just sticking a photocopy and printing cash like crazy.
Yeah, no. I mean, look, all I can say is that this is a health issue. This isn't. This is a, you know. It's got nothing to do with the economy. The economy and everything else was doing okay before, and as soon as the health issue disappears, or as soon as we get a handle on that, you know, people are fit and healthy. They're going to have money from the banks. You know, so if one business falls down, all right, fine, we'll get up and we'll do another one. They'll still be able to get money from the bank because the ECB is going to be printing money just like the Bank of England's been printing. They're going to be desperate for the banks to get it out there. So I think it'll be yes, it'll be. I think it's going to be pretty horrific, but it's going to be very, very short term because people are just going to start wanting to get out and do things again, and it's not the economy that's holding them back. It's this health issue, this pandemic issue that's been holding them back. As soon as you get rid of that, however long that will take, and people can start moving freely, goods can start moving freely again. Then we'll just
get back. We're a lot stronger than they make us out to be. Everything in the news, we're so fragile. We're all going to snap in the breeze, sort of stuff, aren't we? Yeah, there's some people do struggle, right? Get that, but we're not useless. On a slightly personal level, you had COVID, didn't you? Was it how bad was it? Man flu, or did it flatten you for a few days? I know it's still a wee bit of an effect on you.
To be honest, I mean, the first couple of days, I mean, you know, I started feeling a little bit ill on the Friday at work. I carried on feeling a bit rough, and downstairs we have a clinic, a private health clinic. So I popped downstairs to have a test just to be on the safe side. My partner, Kelly, she had tests for school because she's a school teacher.
Yeah.
On the Friday, when I started to feel ill, that came back negative. So I was just as shocked as anyone to be tested positive. But so we quarantined for the 2 weeks. I felt fine, but obviously it's COVID, so you do worry, don't you? That I feel fine at the moment, but am I going to start feeling worse?
Yeah.
But I didn't really feel bad at all. But what I have noticed that even still, and this is a couple of months later, that every morning I still wake up and I still got a little bit
jaded.
Yeah, it's still a little bit jaded, but nothing to put me down. But every day it's getting less and less and less. So I'm thinking about it less and less. So I think I definitely had COVID, but I don't think it was a false positive.
And you're a pretty healthy fella. Apart from Friday afternoons in the restaurants, we won't go into that. And then one point I wanted
to mention really about the banks here, because they're shedding a lot of staff. What's shedding a lot of staff in terms of being able to front-facing staff.
Yeah.
They're trying to move stuff online. For me personally, and for us being a broker that deals specifically with Spanish banks and Spanish lending, I don't want to count my chickens, but I feel this is going to be a massive opportunity. Now, you think the banks are going to become more reliant on companies like ours. Why? Because we're regulated now, so we're registered with the Bank of Spain. So we have the element of trust. They can trust us now that we've taken exams and everything else like that. But for the banks, why is it interesting for them? Well, because they don't have the costs associated with marketing. They don't have the staffing costs. They don't have the regulatory costs. They don't have the insurance costs. We take all of that on.
Yep.
Right? And so they're sort of outsourcing marketing and client and capturing the clients, which is fantastic for us as a business.
Absolutely.
They were so big and they managed to do all of that themselves. Now they're being trimmed down and they're relying on people like us to do that for them. Well,
so it goes back now to previous. It's obviously an updated model, so they want to almost like just be a platform. You're essentially an old school packager, aren't you? As long as that's what you got here in terms of the peer-to-peer lending, the funding circles, all that sort of stuff loaded up. System says somebody just checks it and away you go.
Yeah.
So it's from their angle, it's got to be. You cannot carry the overheads in today's world. The world's look how it gets turned on its head like it has. It's amazing when you think the likes of EasyJet had to take £1 billion off the government just to park up hundreds of planes. And it's going to, for those sort of guys, this is where you get the pluses and the minuses. Nearly the old tradition. If you did it the old traditional way, if you're an old school solicitor, you just open the door and I expect some trade today. It ain't going to happen.
No. And with the Eagle, I mean, I've got a client at the moment who is in charge of 80,000 staff worldwide, and not one of them is working. They're all working from home.
Yeah,
and it's just immense. That's just immense. I spoke to him and I said, he said, Mark, if this happened 10 years ago, we will be knackered. But the thing is, with the advances of technology, look, I'm sitting here talking to you.
Yeah.
We've got a website. We don't necessarily need a shop.
No.
Because the website is our shop.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
So you don't, so there again, so if you have a shop on the high street, what's the point? I've got my website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only people that see your shop will be people that live in that area. Yeah. Whereas the website, people can see you from all over the world. What's the point in investing in the shop when I can close the shop and invest that money into my website? So I've got more of a presence out there. So I can see why shops in the high street are losing business because it's just no need for it anymore. It doesn't make any economical sense. It's a nice to have, isn't it? Look, this is our shop window. This is who we are. You don't need it.
No, you don't need it. And this is where you're going to get those changes with individuals through this, aren't you? Suddenly, because as I said, you've got our grandchildren over with us in England at the minute, right? Buzzer goes around in the apartment. They both go Amazon. It's almost like Pavlov's dogs. Must be someone from Amazon sort of stuff, and it's somebody just delivering something else, So, and we massive change in the world are going there. But it's good to see that banks have been strong in Spain because they're going to need them. You've got to have that strong banking side.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas last time it was, I think someone gave me the analogy. They said, right, when I think it was about 2012, and we're up near the Merthyr area, and I said, where do you see this going? Because obviously it's still pretty poor at that time. And they said, you know, when you have that dream, right, and you fall off something and you don't scream, and then you start screaming. I said, we're not even screaming yet. This time they've got their act together. They've tidied up a lot of their stuff, and you just say they're cutting themselves to make sure they're ready for the next thing, the next period. So what about, so just in terms of, so we're comparing a couple of things in Spain, what other sort of financial products do you have? Obviously you're mainly mortgages. Do you have lifetime mortgages? Is it the same sort of life cover thing and all that sort of stuff? How does that compare?
Compared to the UK, we're 25, 30 years behind in
Right.
terms of what financial services there are to offer. And private banking, yeah, you can, you know, do whatever you like. You've got unit trusts, you can invest in all sorts of different things. And
Yeah.
but you know, the mortgage market is very, very basic. There's nothing exciting. There's no like interest only, for example, doesn't exist in Spain.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you know, Spain is rife for new banks to come in,
Yeah.
start coming in with new ideas, innovative ways of doing things, and bringing out new product. But the problem with Spain is that you have to deal with the legal system, and you've got to make sure that you're compliant with all the laws. Now, the laws in Spain are, you know, it's all tied to court and everything else, and so that is a little bit prohibitive in terms of a lending. I'll give you an example, Terry. I mean, if you wanted to take a bank lent someone some money and they didn't pay you, it would take you at least 4 or 5 years to repossess that property.
Yeah.
Now, if you're a lender thinking about coming into Spain, that may put you off, to be honest, because how costly is it going to be for me to recoup my money? And if you have to go for a lengthy court procedure, I know of potential private secondary lenders that have decided against it because it's just not worth the legal battle.
Yeah.
As, in England, it's much quicker.
England it's going to be slowing down because the courts are rammed because they've basically had a gap year with this current, in Northern Ireland, because you get these things all the time, don't you? So you get cross-jurisdictional. So we're in Northern Ireland, you've got that little hiccup with the Brexit where they sit. Some people are doing very well on the back of that. But what they particularly find is they go and get a judgment in England, and it's a bit like trying to get it enforced in Northern Ireland. It's a whole different ballgame.
Well,
Send your judgment over, cool. What do you want to do about it? Well, we want paying. You go, right, well, we're here, you're there. And then you go to the south, so Ulster Bank may have, or any Bank of Ireland will have footholds on both sides, but cross jurisdiction is real tough. They can't do it themselves. They're no good at it. Crap at it. I think that's a worldwide problem. So it's always trying to break into a market. I think the only place really you can do it if you're going to break into a market is America, because they just actively encourage it. They say, come on. If it goes wrong, they throw it in the bin, they get on with things.
Yeah, in the States, it's very much buyer beware. If you don't pay your mortgage, I guess it's pretty easy for them to sort of go in and take possession. Whereas in Spain, it's a legal minefield, as you know. I mean, it's fraught with danger for the lenders, which is good for the, but it shouldn't really take 4 years to repossess it.
No, it's mad, and it's not like they took the money, they've got the property. That's your man, that's your woman. Go figure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if they have fallen under difficult circumstances for whatever reason, then of course you need to take that into account. But 4 years minimum 4 years to get someone out, so that puts people off. It puts investors off.
So how are you planning going forward? Are you just head down and plough through, or you got other plans in terms of what you're doing?
It's difficult to plan expansions and stuff, but until this is finished. But we do have ideas. I mean, you've met Julian.
Yeah.
He used to work in Gibraltar for Lloyd's International, so he's got a lot of contacts there, and he likes that area. So it's in our potential business plan to open a separate office in Sotogrande, right? Yeah. But we've obviously, that was going to happen last year, but that didn't happen. So that's in our vision for the future.
Yeah.
And then the challenge will be to keep business levels as they are, keep growing in the front on business levels. But then in order for us to do that, we need to find and recruit the right people to help us grow. Yeah. And because now the anyone that needs to talk about or wants to be a Spanish mortgage advisor has to pass the exam. It's not an easy exam to pass. Believe me, I did it.
I remember you going through it.
I was quite worried. So yes, we can find people that have passed the exam, but do they have the language skills that we require for them to be able to advise the foreign borrower in the right manner? Because it's you've got to be able to communicate well with your clients and with the banks in order to get the message across. So it's going to be interesting, but we have plans to move forward. We put them on hold, obviously, and we'll see where we are. So
got to get that solid base to go from again, haven't you? Got to see.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, it's not easy in setting up a business, as you know.
No.
I'm a good mortgage advisor, but I may not be the best business person. I might be good at talking to clients and getting my message across, but maybe I'll fall a bit down on accounting. Things like that.
You can't be all things, can you? Because you wouldn't do anything like this. It's that old thing that there's two adages. One was said you can take the view where you say, right, dive off a cliff and build the plane on the way down, or the other one is just get going, get perfect later, because you can't do each and everything.
You've got to learn on the job, basically.
Yeah, and you've got a brilliant setup there in the team there. You've got a great office manager and everything else, so that all works well. And I know testimonials can be old hat, but you've been getting some great testimonials. There was one that good the other day for Julian. I thought he must have written it himself. I said to Julian, I can recognise your handwriting. It wasn't. It was a very nice testimonial. But again, more power to your elbow in terms of what you're doing there. Are you trying to extend more into Europe? So obviously Brits, as you say, were out there, third parties slightly. You're looking at France, the Baltic countries and all like that. Would you mark it up there?
No. No. Again, like you say, you could be a master. You could butter, you could spread yourself too thin. There's a massive market here in Spain, and the figure of mortgage broker. In the UK, they got John Charcoal, for example, where I used to work. It's been around for 47 years.
Yeah.
But this figure, because we're 25, 30 years behind in the UK, the actual, mortgage brokers were only regulated in Spain in 2019.
Yeah.
That's just mad. And it's only now that the Bank of Spain is actually recognising that a mortgage broker, A, exists, and B, is quite important in the process.
Yeah.
Now, last year, there was 300,000 mortgages sold to parents, whatever.
Right.
There's such a massive market for us.
It still comes back. We say, well, yeah, we may have left Brexit, right? But it's still a good place to go to. 300, I think it's 320 days of sunshine.
Yeah.
I think we get the other 45. That's all we get here.
That's right.
And you've been here, you know how cold it is and everything else, England. So that's always, it doesn't matter what you do. You get that's a different thing. Well, get to my sort of age, you need the old bones warming every now and again. And we got some flights booked for July, but whether that happens, we'll see.
Look, just to give you an example, this client of ours that runs an organisation with 80,000 people all working from home, worldwide, right? His top directives probably won't necessarily have to be in the office a lot these days. In fact, probably once the offices start open, his idea is probably to downsize in the office and encourage more home working. And I'm sure that's going to happen, right? So we're getting a lot of phone calls from people who are saying, well, if I'm expected to work from home a lot of the time now, well, why would I do it from a flat in Solihull or wherever I am? Why don't I do it in Marbella?
Yeah.
I can, after I finish work, just pop downstairs and have a couple of canyons, and I'm happy as Larry. And then I can get on the flight in Malaga, and I could be in the office within 4 hours.
Yeah,
absolutely. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So I think it's
the whole world's so much. Going back to your title, it's more fluid, isn't it? In every sense. There was a thing, there's Citizen M hotels, so they're struggling, but they came at the great thing where you could buy a month's pass on all their hotels for €1,500.
Yeah.
And you could go and work a week in Stockholm, Madrid, wherever the bloody hell you wanted to be, Zurich and everything. And the world's going to be like that because Jim, my son's got a mate there and he's a good golfer. He's I'll be impolite, he's a bit of a strange cookie, but he's very, very intelligent. And he does a bit of work for Cambridge University, so it's a bit, what he does, I think, is a bit secret. He only has to do 5 days a week, so he's living in Lanzarote. And the fellow said, "Do your 5 hours because you're buying his intellect, not his time." Down. The other thing is now he's playing off two.
But again, I'm going to have to go. But this is why I think Brexit was a bit of a shot. We shot ourselves in the foot a little bit here, because that freedom that you
Massive.
we all desire. Now that's we're put a little stop to that, unfortunately. I mean, to get up and just move to Spain, like I did, I just got and got offered a job and I moved, and no problems in doing so, and I set myself up here. I wouldn't have been able to do it. I mean, I would have done because I've got Spanish heritage, but I mean, it's a bit of a nightmare, especially now that the pandemic's here, and now that we know we can work from anywhere in the world. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's one of those. We'll work through it. I'm sure it'll be fine.
We will. And you say it's like I was saying, it's the good stuff out in the world. There's plenty of crap, but there's plenty of good stuff. Right, I'm going to let you go because I know you're busy, right? But I have to ask you a few personal questions, right? Quick fire round, okay? Just a couple.
Yeah.
What score are you playing? What are you playing off in golf? What score?
I've got two small children, Terry, that are 2.5 and 14 months. So I haven't played golf in ages. So put me down for 22.
Oh, jeepers. You just wear the mask. You even put your excuse. I knew you were going to come up with a bandit one anyway.
Put me down as 22, that would do.
22, right. Wine, red or white?
Red.
Red all day, cool. Favorite social media platform?
Instagram.
Oh yeah, good. What would you look at most? Would that be Instagram, or would it be? I know you did a little bit on LinkedIn and stuff like that, and you're doing more on there, which is good stuff to see. But Instagram, you enjoy.
I only got involved in Instagram about 6 months ago, only because of work. But you end up, you do waste a lot of time just flicking through silly little videos. So I try not to go on social media too much.
Too much. It's a certain life, isn't it? Favorite sport? I know what this is.
Yeah, it's football. Yeah.
And come on, you irons.
Yeah,
very good. Right, a couple more. Dinner party, right? I'm a great chef, as you know. You can pick very fine red wines. 4 guests. Who would it can be like dead or alive?
Dead or alive. 4 guests. I mean, Jimi Hendrix. I would go in for Prince, and gotta have why not? Bobby Moore in there, why not?
Yeah.
And
let me help you. You haven't made an honest woman of her. Kelly, maybe?
Yeah, go on in.
That's Mark's partner.
Yeah, upset if she wasn't there.
Mark's managed to come up with every excuse why he shouldn't get married, and COVID's not an excuse by any stretch, but we've had Brexit, Donald Trump and everything so far. Last one, right? So we put this on other people. Who do you think else we should speak to on this podcast? Again, we're trying to get people that really know their stuff and speak relatively straight. Just one person do, anybody. It can be anywhere.
Who would, I don't know.
And it can't be our Spanish lister.
No. I don't know, Terry.
Cool.
You've got me. I need to think about that.
We'll adjust the volume, but we'll make it Stuart Weeks.
Stuart Weeks, yeah, be good.
The loudest man in the world. That's brilliant. Thanks for that, mate. Just a bit of a crack, wasn't it, in a chat through?
Yeah, lovely.
Good. And it's good sometimes just to have it. We know all this stuff, but it's quite good to hear. And I say we just try and put it out there. We're going to cut it up and use it for bits of social media, but put the podcast up there as well. And I say just trying to cut through a bit of BS, which is always good with all the other.
I hope you found it of interest.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, absolutely.
Came across on it.
I said to you before, you're a very interesting man, Mark. You're very interesting. That's cool. Thanks for your time, mate.
Lovely. It's lovely to see you, Terry.
Yeah, see you soon, hopefully. Look after yourself, right?
All my love to everyone, and Grace and the boys and Redo, and hopefully we'll come over and see you soon, yeah?
Well, yep. See you soon, mate. Take it easy.
Take care. Cheers,
Terry. Cheers, mate. Thanks. Bye.